Please welcome to the stage Bethann Hardison, Omar Salam of Sukeina, and Noel of Noel.
Are we ready to go, everybody? Thank you. And we're ready to go over here as well? Thank you. All right, my name is Bethann Hardison, and before we get started talking on having this conversation with my two beautiful youngins, I wanted to be able to tell you a little bit about Designers Hub and how that came to be. Designers Hub is a community of designers who at one point back in early spring 2018, I felt too many people were saying, where's the designers of color? That became like a stone in my shoe, because I come from the garment business and I knew there were so many designers of color before that I knew they were out there. It's just that because they weren't getting famous or because they weren't being editorialized, I knew they existed. So with the help of CFDA, a young man there that they hired, own, employ, named Joseph Maglieri, he helped me to start to wrangle some designers. And with the support of 4 people who I respected, which was Tracy Reese, Patrick Robinson, Stephanie Horton, and Wanda Colon, and Lisa Metcalf, it made it a really much better thing to make me know that, yes, if they wanted to sign on to help me, that this too has to be something that we should do. And we took our time, and once a month we met with these designers, Fee being one of the first, because it was about 20, and they sat in a room and took notes from each other and from the things that this particular panel would give them at once a month. That's how the Designers Hub started. Now, the Designers Hub has continued and now has grown into about 40, and it continues because the community is feeling like a I guess you say, a fail-safe place. But just telling you a little bit about that, I want to tell you a little bit about Fee, a little bit about Omar, and they're very nervous because they're scared of me. You're probably scared of me too, but the truth of it is they're really scared of me because I'm considered Mama B. So you're scared, right?
Absolutely.
So this is what I'm going to do. I want to talk a little bit about each one of them because they have journeys that are very, very interesting as designers. And so I want to ask B to tell me a little bit about your background, how you got into this business of design and what called you into it.
Wow. I've told this story.
And don't talk long. We only have 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Clock is ticking.
I've told this story. I came in through the boutique. I had a vintage boutique in Brooklyn. I was 19 years old, and it was through that process that I started to design. So I've been in the industry for a while, really trying to carve out my own voice and find my people. So that's the journey that I've been on. That's how I create. My collections and everything that I stand for is based on my culture. It's based on my upbringing. My family is from a small island called Grenada, but I was born and raised in America in a West Indian household. So everything I do, just the way I live, the way I create, is me giving myself to the world and finding my people that can relate to the woman that I am and then the woman I inspired to be. So that's what Noel is all about.
Very good.
Short enough for you, Mama B?
So quick to the point. Can you beat that time?
Let's try. Hi, everyone. I'm super happy and also nervous to be here. For me, so I started off wanting to go into film because I felt that as a child, my both parents didn't understand me. And I went through...
Well, first of all, where are you from?
So originally, my mom is from a place that no one ever heard maybe before, called Shingeti, which is the desert of Mauritania. We won't get into it. Okay. And my dad from Dakar, Senegal. They met at political science, and I happened. So I felt, after being super angry and frustrated for a really long time, at one point I felt, well, if my own parents don't understand me, maybe I should be telling my own story. So I went into storytelling thinking I would be going into screenwriting. 2 years into my program, I dropped off, realizing that actually in dressing, we possibly could address, and it was a way of communicating that could be more immediate, easier, faster, more guttural. When I went into fashion, I wanted, at least in the DNA of that I was going to do, to be able to tell you a story about you that you sitting in your chair could not see, because I have the vantage point of having that one thing.
So tell me something before you go on. How did you go into fashion?
So I went first into film,
Yeah.
dropped off, came back to New York, and enrolled into school.
In a fashion school?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
So the whole ideology about you living with yourself for as long as you have and get to see everybody in the room but yourself, for me, was the point that I felt was quite interesting to take on, and sharing with you the reflection of you, me, from the vantage point of sitting across the room.
So you designed thinking about an individual, a woman,
Yes.
and you designed thinking of her, thinking about what she might like.
Not what she might like, disclosing to you whether you are a dancer, the way you move, whether you are someone very practical, the exactitude in your motion, whatever that is, sharing with you a part of you that you cannot see, that requires someone else to sit across.
This sounds very complicated. You get that? Yeah. You got it?
He's a
Tracy
mirror.
got it.
Yeah.
You got it? 2 people got it. So tell me something. When you had the opportunity to go abroad and also work, now this is very interesting because that doesn't happen to many designers. The opportunity to go beyond where they learned and to get the opportunity to go to Europe, right?
Yes.
That's really like the cat's meow. That's really special. So tell us how that came about.
So when I graduated, I was offered few internship. I wanted to work for a fashion design where the designer was designing and also was the founder, because this is what I thought were the triple threat. It's one thing to be appointed in a fashion house that is already built. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to be at the helm of a fashion house where you are not designing. Doing the three, I felt, would be really the right school for me. So I took an internship that sent me back to Paris at Sonia Rykiel, where I spent 7 years working, getting to know her, and pretty much learning everything that I know.
You said Sonia?
Sonia Rykiel, yes.
Does most of you know who Sonia Rykiel is? Yeah. See, little fashion crowd. Ooh, well, cool. So this is interesting to me too. So you had that opportunity to work for 7 years. Did you find your design then? I'm not going to come back to your feet because I have to beat you up a bit. But
No.
Tell me, did you find your sense of design, or that after you learned the techniques of design, which is why we do these things,
Right.
then you found what you like to do different than her, because you don't design like her,
Right.
meaning Sonia.
I found myself. I was super lucky to be taken in by the most incredibly kind woman that, just was willing to share, and I was super thirsty and hungry and curious. So it was an incredible relationship. But I didn't even know yet that I wanted to be a designer per se, because as we don't say oftentimes, there are so many very interesting jobs in fashion that are not necessarily designing. Yes. And quite oftentimes they give us, the light, but there are people behind the designers that are equally or perhaps more important than the designer. So I wasn't quite sure that I actually wanted that position. It's only later on that I felt that there were a point of view that I wanted to share that I felt was not repetitive or duplicative of anything out there that I thought could be important to share.
Good. So this is something. So tell me, you have found, now that you're working in the industry in the way that you have, you started out doing e-commerce, which you can explain, and then you decided to try wholesale. And I want to explain to everyone the difficulty it is for a designer, no matter who they are, the road that they have to go up to pretty much sort of like complete their passion in their craft. So if you can explain to us, what was it like for you to sort of get into this place of thinking, what do I want to do to save myself?
You see, the reason why this conversation is dangerous because she knows all my woes. I don't know what she's going to ask about. But I would say that I kind of started in my own world. So I was creating, I was selling to my friends, I was selling to people. I started off at a really young age. And so much has happened since then, and even being introduced into the Designers Hub and being introduced to the industry in a new way, I thought that was all I wanted. I thought it would be a dream to be at Saks. It would be a dream to work with Bloomingdale's. It would be a dream to just be in all these stores that my mom would go in and get so excited about shopping in. And it was, right? Like, she would cry when she walked into every store, and she would tell them, like, that's my daughter's stuff. And, you know, it was a sense of pride coming from such a small island, and her looking at these places, at these magical places that she loved going and shopping. But I got a rude awakening really, really fast. And I remember calling up Mama B and saying, yeah,
I'm Mama B.
Oh, this is Mama B, Bethann. And I called her and I said, if I want to sustain this business the same way that I've grown it, I have to remove myself from wholesale. And it was taking so much out of me, and my business is self-funded. And to go into wholesale, you really need to you need to have a financial backing. And I couldn't really wrap my head around that at the time. So everyone was so excited to see Noel blow up in the way that it did, but I had to take some steps back to survive and continue to grow so that more people can get introduced to it.
So the retail business and the retail space was much harder for you.
Much harder.
Yeah, we want to call we have in our Designers Hub, we have these calls now after the pandemic that we do Zoom calls. And this became an interesting conversation with some of the designers. A young man named Sergio Hudson, he's in a very much better position. He has a great staff, you know, and he had just been accepted to so many stores, and he was in it to win it. Fee gets on the call, and she says, well, I'm out. I'm not doing retail no more. I'm done. And so, you know, there's designers that are right between doing it, not doing it, and they, you know, you're hearing both sides, and you just wonder, well, which way do I go? And it's very exciting, as I always say to the group, everything that shines not gold. Mm-hmm. You know, you can get, like Tracy said before, and everything bigger ain't better. You know, the truth of it is, it sounds good. And it's good. It's like a platform, like somebody you audition and they said, come on to stage and you can just have a huge audience. And you do it. But the problem is, how do you survive what they do? Mm-hmm. They need to survive too. So now that you've stepped out a little bit, you do your boutiques or things, whatever you choose to do, because you want to control you. You are in it smiling all great because it's all brand new.
That too. But there is a side to fashion, though, that I don't hear oftentimes being spoken about, because there is the super intelligent part, which is the business, the consumers, and all these words that I very seldom understand. There is also the beauty part. And it really, not just the beauty, the physical aspect of beauty, but what beauty is, what beauty does, what beauty inspires, that a child at one point, I just wanted to give an outer voice to an inner voice. I wanted to look at you based on what you were that inspired me, amplified in a way that the people in the room that you won't get to speak to from afar will come to you and say hello or be inspired by. And I kind of keep it there because it's a space that I feel super comfortable at. It's also a space that I am feeling that regardless of how big you get and how complicated the company becomes, is super important to stay connected with, because it is a woman. It is one person.
So stay connected to your market.
Stay connected to that person that you are
inspired
committed, willing, wanting, inspired, feeling excited.
Even if you don't
support.
know her. Even if you don't know. You don't know her.
You don't need to know her.
Yeah.
Usually that person that you are inspiring right now someone that you may not get to know.
Yeah.
When you walked out of your house, that color that you are wearing, the print, is sending someone else that is a painter a year away from now, painting something that you may see or may be inspired by, not knowing that it was all coming from you. There is a very granular, infectious, personal, intimate part to fashion that we don't talk about when it is actually the seed that led to the tree, that led to the plantation, that led to all these things that we are talking about today, that are the function of it, the practicality of it, the marketing of it, all this wonderful thing about it, where the seed of it, where it all came from, is a beautiful
All right.
space.
What is the seed? And don't take long. I got 2 more minutes. What's the
What
seed?
is the seed?
What's the seed?
You.
Oh, that was a cheap shot.
It's you. The seed is
I ain't
you.
buying
The seed to fashion is seeing in someone else across the room something about them that you feel, if they knew, will sit straighter.
All right, I like his passion. We all got to give him a round of applause.
I love hearing Omar.
No, I'm in love with anyone who's riding a horse and believes they got it. And I do appreciate that, because no matter what anyone else is doing, you have this vision that you're looking straight down that line, and that's what's important. Now that you've said all that, Fee, tell me what's the downside of all this nonsense?
Why are you making me the bad guy?
Okay. Omar, tell me, what's your downside?
I'll tell you.
I'll take
to
some
follow up. To follow up earlier about wholesale, the thing about it is, there is a big initiative for diversity.
Yeah.
The problem is, we're just getting in the game.
Yeah.
So we don't have the education, we don't have the foundation, we don't have the team and the staff to go into this wholesale business.
We don't have the experience, we don't have the funding, we don't have the backup.
Exactly. So it's like, even though the doors are now wide open, you get in there and you're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I want to think about the beautiful part of fashion. You guys, I enjoy getting dressed I want to think about nothing but that. But to speak on from grit to glamour, it is way more grit than it is glamour. It is way more grit than it is glamour in the fashion business. And we got to, it's like we have to talk about both sides.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the interesting thing. It's wonderful when you have someone like Omar who's so romantic. And that's not a negative. That is a positive, because we need everyone. And the fact that you decide, what I also love is that you can decide, oh, that's a good question. What do you think about fashion shows?
I think they can be magical. I think they can be transportive. I think they can be uplifting if you're not connecting it to the cost of it. I just want to give an example. I think, I'm not only romantic, I think actually I'm quite realistic.
Yeah.
I think if Steve Jobs thought of all the plethora of difficulties and building and all the stuff that came about building a company of that size, he probably wouldn't start. And these are two realities.
That was Aurora, only Aurora.
No, that's
okay,
and Tracy.
Okay.
And I think, and I honestly think that we need to find a way to be two things. One, honest. Two, really pay attention, really pay attention. If you say, I'm going to plant this seed, and the seed is growing into a tree that becomes difficult to water, difficult to take care of, you really have to have the honesty of saying, this is still my dream, even though driving this car is kind of tough. All I'm saying is, when you lose complete touch to the fact that someone like Tracy Reese that spoke earlier, that your dream of a child, of a little girl, was to sit there and see people walking down the street wearing your clothes. And all I'm saying is, if you let the issues, the difficulty, and all that comes with it becomes the reality, then there is a part of that story that is not being told.
So then you have to, when you're confronted with the reality, then you have to find a way to be able to surf that wave.
And that's a really good segue. I think that the place of strength to be able to manage all of that is where it started from.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like this. You're going well. Now,
do you see why we're afraid of her?
now tell me something. What do you dare to dream right now? You know, you say, oh man, if I could only, if I had it all, and where would I want to be? What would I prefer right now within the craft, within the business of it all? You go.
Should I go first? I would like a fully functioning fashion house, right? That could stand on its own, stand the test of time, that can become a household name. I would like the opportunity to build it into that. And I think that's what keeps me fueled, keeps me going. Mm-hmm. So you need both, right? You need the good, the bad, and the ugly. It just comes with, it's just the nature of the beast. And I've taken on that role, just even being a Black woman, like heading a fashion house is my ultimate dream.
And when you say fashion house?
My own fashion house. Let's be clear.
She almost slipped. And I mean the ultimate.
The ultimate is for me to be as a product or as a reality or whatever it is, to be so necessary that you couldn't live without it.
Yes.
I do feel that I give this example of, imagine the greatest voice of all, Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston or whomever in the middle of Central Park singing. Without amplifiers, they will have to yell so much that their voice will be distorted, but you won't hear it. And I think that in our community, what has been quite a challenge is the opportunity that Stewart, for instance, has that can be at the helm of something that is so well-oiled, so well-run, and so clear that we can just express that we are and that we can be of benefit to the world in general. We tend to be in a position where we need to work so extremely hard, and it's so laborious that I am very fearful of creative exhaustion and getting to a place where by the time we can express ourselves, we are out of breath.
So this is why when you led me right to where I want to go, would you consider going to a house? I would. I mean, I'm not a designer. I design, but I work with designers. And would you consider if a house far away said, "Come, run our home"?
1,000%.
Me too. I haven't got one, and I would run, Forrest, run.
Because I just want to say this.
I would too.
I think it matters not what it is called.
Yeah.
I think that if you are, once again, if that you are doing or creating is enhancing, amplifying, or facilitating, contrasting, or supporting each and every, look at the iPhone. Who cares what it is called? I think that if the product is good, Samsung cares. If the product is good, it doesn't matter the ways in which you get there. Then calling it becomes important. But if it doesn't get there, it's irrelevant.
Yeah. So, but V, I bet if Chanel said, "Come on down,"
I think it's important. My last name means so much to me, so much to my family. Just having Noel, Chanel, that sounds good, Sounds very, very good. I think it's important for me for legacy, right? Name. So for me, the name is important, and to reach and touch and to be looked at and read about, I think it's important so that other people can believe that they can do the same. Sometimes we create and we go under somebody else's name, but for me, that's not going to work.
Yeah. So you never, at this stage, you could never imagine not having You could never imagine not having a place to go and design or not designing more. This is your life. This is what you were meant to do.
Yes.
You know that, and you know that as well.
Same.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing. It's always wonderful when people know exactly what they're called to do something and they just do it. There's no doubt about it. And so you're so clear, both of you are so clear about it. I'm very happy that you came. We have a lot of minutes. We're going to ask these people a few questions, whether they like a Q&A or not, because it's my house. So if anybody want to ask a quick question, we're doing this because I got 4 minutes. Way in the back. Wow. Did you hear what she said?
Yes. How would you define beauty? So, for me, beauty is really about authenticity. It's about being able to show up exactly as who I am in every single way. And that's when I feel most beautiful, when I can feel comfortable, when I can express myself. And it's not so much the physical attribute of something in my world, it's more the spirit, the vibe, which I love that word, just someone's vibe, someone's energy. And fashion for me outfits that, right? And can showcase that in a physical way, in a tangible way. But to me, beauty is and always will be an abstract thing.
I'm going to answer that too. Go ahead.
Yes. Beauty is the deepest, most essential expression of yourself. And the example I can give you is, imagine a screw, a little piece of screw, no matter how small it is, no matter what it is made out of. Beauty is that screw, knowing what it is, but knowing where to place it in a macro system as large as a plane. And knowing that without it, as large as the plane is, as far as the plane can go, without it, the picture is not full, it's not whole. Beauty is knowing that you are, no matter how small, big, that it is something so unique and so intersect to who you are and your power, and how that can actually serve the larger playing field in a way that you are part of it. And without it, it wouldn't be that it is. So it is the way it looks, it is what it does, it is the role it plays, but more importantly, it is that only that is, and when placed where it belongs, it just all come together. And that's when you find, whether it is in music, it is in color combination, it is in whatever it is, that when things are put in a certain order, feels as if it's connecting you to a part of you that you didn't even know was there.
He should be a professor.
It's true.
Right?
You know, my grandmother, she used to say, you don't need to read or write music to feel when a symphony is well written.
Yeah.
And I think that's what beauty is when things are placed in a certain order, that it becomes very inclusive and inviting of all.
Okay. Thank you. I wanted to be able to say, the word beauty has become so insaturated in the word of fashion now. You know, it was two separate industries. It was never, when people ask me the question all the time, Bethann, tell me, I want to talk about beauty. I always said, I can't. I don't know how to answer that question. It's so wonderful the way you both answered it in such a good way. And we only have a few moments, so I want you to tell me, what do you think and what would you like to see the industry go in a direction? I know one thing I'd like for Stephen Kolb to find us a place, a real piece of real estate, so that we don't have to run all over the world to see fashion shows anymore. Put that on your Christmas list. What would you like to see it happen?
What it's happening, just opportunities, doors being open, Aurora's 15% pledge, Tracy Reese being able to build this huge thing in Detroit. I think that the opportunity, we're in it right now, and we just have to continue to push forward So just more of that, more open doors. And when we open the doors, the support to sustain the door that you're open for communities that's never been in places like that before. So I guess I would like for support.
And I would like to educate. What would you like?
I think the fashion industry is on a almost 360 about to buckle. I think, and this could be my illusion, I think that today more than ever, the role of fashion is going to determine where the world is heading as a whole. I think the authenticity, the honesty in creation that is required to develop a product that is so true and not just mass-produced, not just pushed out there with derivative and financial needs and goals that are completely disconnected to what it was supposed to be from the get-go, is going to be rekindled in order to develop real collections with real products that require time, that cost what they cost, but it is almost inexpensive because when someone is looking at it, they know that these were not pieces that were just put together. I think as if the planet Earth is kind of helping us navigate to go back to that place where it is impossible to overproduce, because producing means really delving into deep inspiration and really going the right pathway. So I feel that this is a really, really, really great moment, and the new wave of designers have no choice but to do it this way, which, by the way, is likely to take us into a circular production, only because real production takes a certain amount of time.
Well, I love that you said all that. I would like to see the fashion industry be less. I think less is more. I think that we have way too much. I was so proud of what the things that Tracy Reese was saying earlier. There's so much, I don't know, so many creative people coming out. The floodgates are open. The landscape for fashion, the real estate has not changed. The island is still the same size, but the inhabitants have become so much more anymore. It's like the problem of immigration almost. So we have a tough one to balance. You're not saying no to people because they're talented. You're saying no so oftentimes because the system doesn't allow it to be stretched any further. And with that, I want to say thank you all for coming out. Thank you.
I have a question for Bethann. I know it says time is up,
okay,
but you have been a part of both worlds.
Yes.
And what do you think and what do you see? Like, what is the way?
Meaning
Both worlds.
the wholesale, retail?
No, and just old guard, old fashioned. You came up with Willie Smith, like that, and then now you're in charge of forging forward the new designers, new emerging designers. So what do you think is the way forward? The single most important thing that we should focus on with being the change?
Business. Business, business. I'm so concerned about the lack of education and the desire to not everybody want to have their own, and no one wants to be an apprentice. I think it's so important for young people to learn. I think it's so important to let somebody else take the hit as you learn. Don't be the one to put all your money in, and try to fix it yourself. It's so wonderful to say, let me put this down for a while and go work for someone. If you have the skills, someone will hire you. I think that's how most people get to be heads of houses. I think it's so important for everyone not to think that they can be a designer. I think that everyone should sometimes know when they don't have the talent to beat it. And a lot of people out there think they're talented. I'm just saying. So for me, I would love if somebody could tap them on the shoulder and say, maybe you should sit this out. Do you ever think about technology? So in the end, I do hope, I'm sorry, I'm just hoping, I want to educate all of you. And I love the fact that the community, I love what you all are to us, each one of you to the designer stuff. I love that you have this community. I love watching you all talk and share and talk about the industry and how you want it to be you want it to be so much yours. And I think that is, it warms my heart and makes me happy. it's the last of my hurrah to me when it comes down to what's left of me. So I appreciate you both very much, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.